There's a huge difference between a company that is good and one that continuously and consistently grows and scales year over year. And it all comes down to this. What is it that makes people want to buy your particular product or service? And how can you make it easier for them to make that decision? If you really think about that, that idea leads you to one of the biggest myths, one of the biggest misconceptions, and possibly one of the biggest opportunities in marketing and business today. All right, my name is David White, and this big idea all comes down to one word, and that one word is context. So the way that people buy whatever it is that your business sells is very different to the way that people buy TVs or nutrition advice or car seats for small children or food or tax accounting or any of those sorts of things. So there is a reason why something like a flash sale will make it easy for people to buy lipstick or underwear. And there's a reason why that's not going to work for a tax accountant. Now, there's a reason why things like case studies make it easier for people to buy from an accountant, whereas that's never really going to increase sales for someone who sells lipstick or makeup or underwear or any of those sorts of things. So let's dive in this video and talk about understanding context. What is it that makes people want to buy your product, and how can you make it easier for them to want to buy your product? So I've got a really quick demonstration of what I'm talking about here. Two products that I have purchased recently that perfectly encapsulate this. So product number one, this is something that I bought recently. This is a Specialized something or other. It's a bike helmet. Now, when I bought this helmet, I walked into the shop and I said to the dude that was working there, what is the safest helmet that you've got? And he started talking about, it depends on what your price range is and what kind of other, and I said, no, the safest helmet that you've got. And he said, this one, so I bought it. Now, I bought this helmet not because I'm hoping that it's going to improve my life in some way. Like, at best, this is going to stop my life from getting a lot worse. I bought this helmet not because I'm excited about the idea of it working really well, like breaking with my head inside it so my head doesn't break. I did not buy this helmet for any other reason than it is the safest one that I could find. And once I found that out, I bought it on the spot. Now compare that to this. This is a 1998 Gibson ES 339, and I did not buy this on the spot. In fact, I watched probably 1 billion hours of videos and read 1 million articles about these types of guitars, and I learned about what are these things and what does all this stuff do and why are some guitars hollow and why does this one have a solid piece of wood down the middle and why is the string length the way it is. And I played like probably 30 of these before I decided on this one, and it took me a long time, but eventually I settled on this particular product. So here's the takeaway. If I was in charge of selling a lot more of these for Specialized, I would take a very different approach than trying to sell a bunch of these for Gibson, because the things that work to get people to want to buy this are very different to the things that'll make people want to buy one of these. So I got a couple of big ideas about how you can figure out the most effective way to get people to want to buy your product. And if they want to buy your product, they're more likely to buy it than if they don't want to. So let's head over to the computer right now and talk about how that's done. All right, so if I were to give this video a more catchy title, I'd probably call it something like how to get an insane amount of people to give you a ridiculous amount of money, but in like a cool and friendly way. But let's talk about context in marketing and how you can use this idea to get more people who know that your business exists, knows what your product or your service does, and knows that they can afford it to actually pull out their credit card and give you money. Now, the first base that we're going to touch on here is why should people care about your product? And I've got 4 specific reasons why people might care about your product, and one of them is going to be true for whatever it is that your business does. So I've got a book here called The Discipline of Market Leaders by Michael Treacy and Fred. And this book hypothesizes, and I agree with them, that there are 4 reasons why anyone would decide to buy your product, or there are 4 reasons why a product can be considered valuable. So the first one of these is obviously if it's the cheapest. Now, if your product is cheaper than anyone else's and it does the same thing, yay, that's a reason for someone to buy from you. The second reason why someone might choose to buy from your business is because of something that they call customer intimacy. So consider this. If you go into a chiropractor's office and you say, my back hurts when I do this, and I've got numbness down this side of my leg, you'd want them to give you a different treatment to the next person who walks into that office and says, my neck's sore over here and I get headaches. Like, if they did the same thing for both of you, that's not what people expect from that particular service. So we've got price, we've got customer intimacy. The third thing is what they call product leadership, which is essentially having the best features. So an example of this, the most classic example, is Rolls-Royce. It's the quietest car to sit in, the nicest, plushest seats. It's got the best stereo, all those sorts of things. It is like the product leader. And the final reason why people might consider your offer or your service to be valuable is something that they call operational excellence. So delivering the product or service in a better way than anyone else could when it comes to convenience and excellence. So as an example of operational excellence, we could consider something like hiring a private jet. Now that is operationally excellent because you don't have the inconvenience of going through like checking in your bag, waiting in a queue, all that sort of stuff. Another example might be, I think one that they use from the book is FedEx. So they make it really easy to use their service, and their business is set up for you to have like minimal inconvenience or like difficulty of getting the result that you're looking for. So which one of these disciplines is it that applies to your product? This is important for us to know because this is one of the reasons why people will choose to buy from you. And if there are other people in your industry who have a different kind of discipline to you, that is okay. Rolls-Royce can exist while someone like, I don't know, what would be a good example here, Kia can exist. Rolls-Royce have product leadership. Kia have price as their like primary discipline. So with that said, let's dive in now and examine your product or your service a little bit more closely, because there are three other ways that people might look at what is this thing that I'm trying to buy that we can sort of lean on or leverage to demonstrate to them why they should buy from your particular business. So let's head over to the slides here. And I want to show you a little graph. So the first thing that we got to consider here is, how do people use your particular product? Is it something that they have to take and use themselves? As a classic example here, I don't know, what would we say? Buying a coffee machine is like, hey, do it yourself. You buy the coffee machine, you got to turn it on, you got to put the beans and the water into it, you make your own coffee. That is like a do-it-yourself type product. A done-for-you product might be going to a barista or a cafe and having them make food for you, whereas something in the middle, doing something, in this example, doing something with you, might be, I don't know, let's say a cookbook, right? Like the person is helping you achieve the desired result that you're looking for, but they're not necessarily leaving you to figure it all out by yourself, and they're certainly not coming to your house and cooking for you. So on a spectrum from like do it yourself to done for you, where does your product sit? And once we know that, we can start layering different variables about why people might buy your product on top of this concept. So variable number one is this idea of understandability. So your products can be very, very easy to understand or quite complex and something that's very nuanced and has a lot of, for want of a better term, like art to it. So some things that might be very easy to understand would be like, let's say buying a child's bicycle. If you don't know too much about that product or what's involved, that's okay. You kind of get it. 2 wheels, pedals, handlebars, that's it. That's an example of like a do-it-yourself, easy to understand product. Now a done with you, easy to understand product might be something like a boxing class, whereas a done for you, easy to understand product or service might be, hey, we're lawyers, and if you want to start a business and have all the legal stuff, we'll do that for you. Now, when it comes to products that are harder to understand, we can have things like an ad agency, right? Like it's difficult to grasp immediately, and there's a lot of nuance and learning around what does an ad agency do? How does good advertising look? Or we could have something that's done with you like a cooking class, or a do-it-yourself thing like a guitar that I mentioned earlier. So when it comes to understandability, I'm wondering, where on this spectrum does your business's product fall? And once you kind of have a rough idea, and this is not an exact science at all, but once you have a rough idea, you can kind of get a bit of a gauge about what your audience wants you to show them. So if you feel like your product is up towards the top right side of this kind of graph or spectrum, what you want to do is demonstrate your business's particular discipline, whether that is operational excellence or customer intimacy or product leadership or price, by building a relationship with them, because these people are probably going to take a while to become your customer. Whereas if your product is like leaning more towards the bottom left end of this spectrum, you want to demonstrate your discipline really quickly. So this is the safest kids bike, and like that should be the headline of your website, for example. Or you could say, we are the best boxing class in whatever suburb it is that you live in. Or this guitar is perfect for beginners because of XYZ. Or it's the cheapest, or it's the easiest to play, or any of those things. So if you're up towards the top right end of this spectrum, you want to demonstrate your discipline by building a relationship with your customer. Down here, you want to explain it to them and get them to act as quickly as possible. Now, if that doesn't necessarily apply to your business, here's the second big idea that we can lean on, which is the concept of desirability. Now, there are certain things that people want to buy, and then certain things that they just kind of have to buy. And we can keep the same do-it-yourself or done-with-you spectrum here. So things that people don't want to buy are like cleaning supplies. No one wants to buy that sort of stuff. Same thing with, accountants, but no one really gets excited about the idea of having someone fill out their tax return for them. Or a vet. No one gets really excited about, hey, I've got to go and pay for my dog to get his knee replaced, or any of those sorts of things. So compare that to things that are highly desirable, like a done-for-you treatment, which might be massage, or hiring a nutritional coach, or buying like a really high-end running shoe. So the running shoe is like, you do it yourself. We're not running for you. We're not writing you a running program. We're not helping you get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning to go do this. So consider where your business might fall on this particular spectrum. And once you've got a bit of an idea, we can look at what are we supposed to do with it. If your product is highly desirable, then you should really focus on demonstrating its ability to transform someone from where they're at right now. Maybe in this example, it's like, hey, let's transform you from struggling to get out of bed in the morning to feeling like a toddler again, or something like that. Focus on demonstrating your business's ability to help people with content. Now, if your business is towards the lower end of this spectrum, you want to focus on demonstrating your business's ability to help them with proof. So, for example, this mop company over here might say, here's how absorbent our mop is compared to, like 3 other ones that you might be able to buy at the local shop. This guy here might be able to show a few case studies of how he's helped people save a lot of money on their tax, or the veterinarian might be able to share, hey, look at these testimonials from previous happy dogs that I've helped in my practice. Sorry if I'm getting really dark here, by the way. It just started raining quite a lot. So that's variable number 2, is desirability. Variable number 3 is how much does your product transform someone's life. Now, we can go from like, it is what it is, like it's not super fancy or impressive, all the way up to this thing, if you buy it, this is really going to make a deep difference to what it is that you're doing in your life. So some examples of stuff that just kind of like is what it is might be a novelty cup, or a French-English dictionary, or just like a garden variety lawn watering sprinkler thing. Things that might be a lot more transformative might be the services of a gardener or landscaper, a private French tutor, or a treadmill. Like if you use a treadmill, you're going to have a much bigger transformation in your life than just watering your lawn. So when it comes to this particular variable, right, how much does your product transform someone's life? We can say that if you're down the lower left side of this graph, it's really important to get people to understand why they should act now. So here is where you might do like flash sales of your cup, or talk about it's very important for you to start exercising as soon as possible because of this reason. Whereas if you're up towards the top right of this graph, you really want to focus on making sure that people understand exactly why your product is the kind of thing that they need to get the transformation that they are looking for. So, with that said, I know this is a very deep and complex topic, and apologies for how dark it is here, but it literally just started storming, and I don't have any fancy lights or anything like that. Think about this. Is your product a done for you, a done with you, or a do-it-yourself type offer? On top of that, what is the specific discipline that might make people want to buy your particular thing, whether it's price, operational excellence, customer intimacy, or, and I'm forgetting the fourth one here, apologies for that, product leadership. And do people actually want to buy it? Is it easy for them to understand how it works and what's involved? And finally, what is the level of transformation that you're going to give to them? And if you spend a bit of time thinking about what do people need to see, what do I need to show them, what would encourage them to take action, you'll find it a lot easier to turn potential customers who are interested in what you've got to sell into happy repeat buyers. Now, this is very important because if you get this wrong, you probably will do okay at getting customers, but you'll be spending a lot more effort and time and potentially money to get the number of people buying from your business that you actually want. So, when people look at your product and they consider all these sorts of things, what is it that you're going to show them about your product? What is it that you're going to say about your product? How quickly are you going to try and turn them into a customer? Are you going to focus on really nurturing a relationship, or give them some marketing tools like scarcity and urgency and flash sales and those types of things in order to encourage them to buy? This is a huge topic. There is no one-size-fits-all answer that is going to help every single business owner. But if you spend a bit of time thinking about this, I'm pretty sure you'll find that you get a lot more customers and sales than if you just never really worried about this at all. So, my name is David White. If you found today's video useful, here are a couple more that you can go and check out to grow your business and get more leads, customers, and sales. And I will see you in the next video.